Quazi here. In today's video, I want to share with you the biggest mistake most people make when using the law of assumption and how to correctly use it so that you can actually get results in your life. This took me over 5 years to figure out, and in this video you're going to see the most complete law of assumption guide. We're going to begin with the fundamentals of the law of assumption and why it actually works and how the assumption leads to manifestation actually happening. So I really want you to stick around till the very end of this video, because we're going to go so deep it's going to blow your mind, and you've never seen anything like this on the internet. I'm super excited to get started with this. Let's jump right in. So let's talk about the law of assumption. Why the law of assumption? Why manifestation, law of attraction? Like, what is the law of assumption? Well, after having done so much research and having done so many and tried so many manifestation techniques over the past 7 plus years, I've come across Neville Goddard's teachings, and he puts it beautifully, where he encompasses everything very well. And he puts it in this thing that he calls the law of assumption, that we've come to know after reading so many of his books. This really is the most powerful way to manifest. Now let's talk about why. Why is the law of assumption the most powerful way to manifest, and what I realized. One day I was going into the mailroom and looking for mail, and this box, this package that I thought I had. And when I was looking for it, I was uncertain whether or not the box was actually in the room. And so I was kind of looking for it half-heartedly, right? I was looking for it, I was like, I don't know if it's been delivered yet. After a little searching, the room was packed, it was Christmas time, everyone was ordering boxes, and in my apartment building, we will keep the boxes in the same room, the packages. And after 5-10 minutes, I couldn't really find it, and I wasn't even sure if it was there or not. Then I gave up, and I was like, all right, well, that didn't work out, maybe it's not here yet. But then I get a notification from Amazon saying the box has been delivered. And now I am certain that the box is there in the room. So now my conviction has gone up that it is there, I just need to find it. So my search now took on a different level of conviction and certainty. And of course, I stayed there until I found it after a few minutes. It was hiding somewhere in the back, right? So this is what most of us fail to do. We fail to have that level of certainty with our assumptions. So I'm going to show you how to get there, and how, the biggest mistake that's preventing you from getting there. Because when I had that assumption and my assumption was strengthened, I immediately knew that it was there. It was just a matter of finding it. This is how reality creation should be, and it is the most effective when we have that level of conviction or assumptions that, hey, it's here, I just need to find it. So in everything that I've manifested in my life over the past 4 or 5 years, it was with that conviction and certainty of, hey, it's already there. Let's just go ahead and find it. Let's just go ahead and wait until this manifestation comes to life. So let's break down what it means to even have an assumption. The Oxford Dictionary defines an assumption as something, an event or an object or anything accepted as true without proof, right? Anything that you accept as true without proof verges on the level of belief or faith. Because when I believe in something, I'm pretty much saying, hey, I don't know if this is true or not, but I believe in it. It's like your belief in God. You don't have proof that God exists, but you believe it to be true. But you can't say, I believe in this pen. It's right here, you know it. So the mission becomes for us to keep that assumption and make that assumption strengthened, clear-cut, pure. Because unless and until we do that, the manifestation doesn't happen, because we are shaky in that assumption. So the goal is to turn this assumption into like a level of conviction, a level of reality within you, like you've never done before with anything else. It's already become real within you. And that's why all of the techniques people talk about, like visualizing, like feeling the wish fulfilled, we do all of those to trick our nervous system into accepting that this has all become real. That's the definition of assumption. Interestingly, the Oxford Dictionary defines manifestation quite simply as to show. Manifestation means to show. So here we have assumption accepted as true without proof, without being seen. And manifestation is simply the act of being seen. So the assumption must happen before the manifestation, right? So as we stay with the assumption properly and we treat it properly, manifestation is a natural consequence. It must happen. There is no way manifestation doesn't happen if you stay with your assumption. Whatever we assume, we see in our reality. If I assume that the box is here and I'm certain in my assumption, the box is there, okay? The whole goal with the law of assumption is to strengthen our assumptions that we have. But there is one big thing that prevents everyone, and everyone falls into this trap. And I've seen myself fall into this trap, and it's kind of difficult to catch yourself because you're so close to it. You're so in the picture, you can't see the frame. So let's talk about what that big mistake is, and that mistake comes in 3 subcomponents. So I really want you to stick around to the end of this video because I truly believe if you just understand this, you will be a very, very powerful creator of your reality, okay? The mistake is quite simple. It's simply the inability to stay with your assumption. What does that mean? When I make an assumption about something that I want a successful business, live in a great home, have freedom from my 9 to 5, whatever you want. You make the assumption that you're already living in the end, from the end. The wish has been fulfilled. But then you start to doubt those assumptions. Oh, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? What's going on? This wasn't supposed to happen. All of those, they test and shake your assumption, which then brings the assumption to a very low, it has no conviction in there. So the goal is to get to that level of, hey, I know it's here. I know it's going to happen. Sure, it's going to take some time and searching, but I know nothing can shake my assumption. No way. This is completely protected. This internal dictates the external. So nothing external that happens should affect how you feel internally. Most people fail because they look outside. They're like, oh, that's happening. Maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe it's not right. That's why everyone fails with the law of assumption. So let's talk about the 3 subcomponents that make that failure happen, that are the biggest enemies to reality creation. And this took me a very, very long time to actually boil it down into 3 simple concepts. Number 1, one of the biggest enemies to reality creation and the law of assumption is control. What do I mean by that? Please think about it this way. Right now, you have certain preconceived notions of how the law of assumption is supposed to work. And I find this a lot with people who study Neville's work. They're like, oh, you're not supposed to take action. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to make the assumption and Neville says that's it. So now you have these preconceived ideas and you're not letting life deliver you the goals and manifest organically. The energy is trapped. When you become controlling, the momentum cannot flow. Your subconscious cannot do the work. What do I mean by that? So if I were to throw this pen, I can throw it in one swift motion, or I can stop at every single stage and think about the position of my arm and, all right, I'm going to throw it like that. So imagine you're throwing darts at a board and you have a bullseye. There were 2 groups that were tested doing this. Group A just focused on the target for 2 weeks, and Group B focused on their hand position that they needed to get it in, which sounds ridiculous, right? That they needed to get it in to throw it to the bullseye. They both trained for 2 weeks. Group A, the one that focused on the target, improved their ability to hit the target by 20%. Group B, the one that focused on hand positions and how to control and manipulate their hand, guess what happened? They actually worsened their performance by 20%. They got worse trying to get their hand in the right position. Because guess what? Now your conscious mind gets involved and the subconscious can't have a free, swift flow of energy to deliver you to your goals, right? So when we discuss point number 2, this is going to make sense. So for point number 1, I want you to realize all of these preconceived notions you have about the law of assumption, how things are supposed to work. Whenever you think to yourself, should, must, that's when you know you're being controlling. When you see something bad happen in your reality, let's say you're assuming to become a multimillionaire and build a successful business, but then you have a couple of months that are going wrong. You're like, oh, this shouldn't be happening. This is bad. Oh no. You become controlling. So that's how we start to work against the power of this assumption. We stop the flow. If you can imagine the law of assumption to manifestation being a flow of energy, you make the assumption the energy is flowing in one channel. But now, by being controlling, you're blocking that channel and you're segmenting it into different channels and distractions. That's exactly what's happening. All of these preconceived ideas that you have, ditch them. Just be open to how life is delivering you to these goals. If there are challenges, great. If you need to take some action and that's what you know now, go ahead and take that action. This is all part of that reality manifesting. Number 2, another great enemy of reality creation, strain. What do I mean by strain? Let's go back to that example. And now let's imagine we're throwing something, right? Let's say I'm going to throw this. There's 2 ways I can throw it. I can throw it by straining. I can just hold my body stiff and control my limbs and just throw. Or I can throw naturally with the most momentum, least energy. This is the path of least resistance. I could move my whole body and throw it with momentum, right? So there's 2 ways I'm throwing it. I can either throw like this and hold myself stiff, which feels very strainy, or I can have a free flowing throw. So when you ask a kid to throw a ball, they're going to use their whole body to throw that ball. They're not going to be like, all right, I'm going to use my hand and I'm going to throw like this. Again, this stops that flow of energy from the subconscious. When that momentum stops, you're segmenting that channel again. It can't freely flow. You're living too carefully. You make an assumption, you're like, all right, be very careful, do your manifestation routines. You're controlling and straining. Control and strain go hand in hand. When you become controlling, you become a little straining because you're going against the momentum. That's what's happening. So set your intentions and live carefree. Whatever happens, let it happen. If something bad is happening, great. This too is part of the assumption coming true. This too had to happen so I could learn my lesson, so that I can become better, and then the manifestation can happen. Strain is characterized by, the real question becomes, how can I identify that I'm straining in this manifestation journey to creating what I want? You will know you're straining when you feel too much pressure. You feel a little too much pressure. You feel this pit in your stomach or in the solar plexus area. You feel this like blocked energy and you feel like something's not right. It just feels too hard. It feels like you're pushing against something every single day instead of just letting it go and being carefree, right? Just like throwing. I'm trying to fight something. I'm fighting the momentum. My body wants to freely throw, but I'm fighting the momentum. That's what's happening. So that's number 2, one of the biggest enemies to reality creation. Once you've solved control and strain, you're already literally more than halfway there. The last piece to this, and this causes a lot of incongruency to people who are practicing the law of assumption in trying to create what they want, is the misunderstanding in the types of assumption that we make. There are 2 fundamental types of assumptions that we make. I want you to pay close attention to this. Number 1, everyone gets this right. External assumptions. What does that mean? Assumptions about the world around you. These are assumptions about having that we make and doing. Okay? External are having and doing. Sorry if you can't see this writing. You're just going to have to trust me on this. These are the assumptions we make about what we have in our ideal reality, what we're doing. Oh, I'm running a successful business. I have millions of dollars and, I'm driving the car that I want. Assumptions about having and doing. Phenomenal. But here's where the incongruency arises. Most people don't understand there's another type of assumption that we must make to be successful with this. And that is the internal assumption. The assumption about our identity. And because when we picture that scene, we can't really see ourselves in it because we don't know who the character is we must become to achieve it. So for example, if you're someone who's feeling a lack of confidence and you visualize your ideal scene, you're going to be like, how am I going to get there? I'm not good enough to get there. I don't feel like I'm good enough. So you must clearly see in your mind how this upgraded character fits into your ideal picture. Internal is the assumption that you must make about being. This is exactly what we do with our paid clients in our Reality Mastery program. We teach them how to shift their identity, and I've seen that at every single point in my life. In the process of doing something, I became a different person. When I started to lift more and I became more disciplined, in the process of doing that, I started to become and feel more confident in myself. Because I showed myself, hey, I can do this. I can improve myself. Even in the process of making these videos, I assumed that I was becoming better and better every day. I was making better and better videos every day. I was becoming more and more charismatic and commanding and energetic to the camera. This improvement came over time because I could clearly see. You can go back to my videos and see like 2-3 years ago, like my first video, I still have that up. And how I was speaking, it was completely different. I was a completely different person. As you create your reality, an identity shift must occur. You must make an assumption about who it is you are being every single day. When you have the having, doing, and being all in line, that's when you truly start to master this law. And to fully understand how to shift your identity, I actually made a 5-video bootcamp for you. Just click right here to access an unlisted video where I share how you can get access to our exclusive email list and that 5-video identity shifting bootcamp, which is going to completely change how you view yourself. So click right here and I'll see you in this next video right now. Thanks.